Hey y'all, it's Katie. Hope everyone's doing well. Today we are going to be talking about one of my two most anticipated reads of 2017, A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. Now I think it's no secret that the booktube world has been looking forward to ACOWAR for ages. This was the end of the first story for the ACOTAR series, which I guess is going to have another trilogy, so the two are kind of gonna go together in like a Vampire Academy Bloodlines kind of way. But this was the end of Feyre and Rhysand's story that we fell in love with in ACOTAR and ACOMAF, and I have to say that it was everything that I wanted. It was so well done. I know a lot of us were also very worried because this is the first time that we got to see Sarah J. Maas end a series, and we didn't know how that was gonna go. Like, is she gonna Suzanne Collins us? Is she gonna Veronica Roth us? Like, we don't know how she ends. Is she gonna do a Blood of Olympus? Like, we don't know what's gonna go down, and I think that this kind of gave us a good idea of the way that she is going to go forward ending the series. There was a lot of evil, there was a lot of good. Like, I have so many things to say about this book. There definitely were a lot of really upsetting parts. I actually read this on the train home from college. It was like a 17-hour train ride, so I had lots and lots of time to read, and I was crying on the train. Like, everybody was looking at me like I was crazy, but it's fine. Of course, since this is the third book and final book in this trilogy, there's not really much that I can say without spoilering, other than the fact that I gave this a 10 out of 10. I totally love this book, and everyone should read this series because it's really great. That's gonna be it for the non-spoiler section. See ya after you've read this. Can we just talk for a second about Bloomsbury doing these thin pages and trying my life? They did this with Empire of Storms too, and while I appreciate them saving the earth because I do care about the environment, like, also it frustrates me because they're so thin. Like, this looks like maybe a 400-page book, and it is over 700. Like, that's crazy. And, like, mostly it just frustrates me, partially because, like, it doesn't look like as much as it is, and I want people to understand how much there is, how much happens in this book, but also because then it doesn't, like, match the other ones, and I can deal with, like, height discrepancies, but, like, the thickness, like, ACOMAF was so huge, and this is, I think, longer than ACOMAF, and it's gonna look smaller on my shelf, and that's gonna make me sad. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. I don't even know. I wanted to do this chronologically and talk about my feelings as they happen in the book, but I think we all know that I'm gonna have to start with Rhys dying. I have never felt so much pain. Oh my god, that just, bam, knife to my heart, Sarah. What? Rhys dying, that was when I cried on the train. Like, I did not believe my eyes. I had to go back and reread, like, that whole 2-page thing, and I could feel it coming because the way it happened, it was very clear. Like, we know Rhys, we know him saying, no, just keep going, and I love you. Like, we knew he said I love you. We're like, shit, he's gone, he's done. Like, you knew it was coming, but it's still, like, I had to go back and reread that 2 pages. I was like, she can't do this. Like, she can kill anyone that she wants. Like, she can kill Feyre. I love Feyre, but, like, she can kill everyone as long as Rhys is okay, but, like, Rhys can't die. And then he did? And then, of course, like, once it was established that, yes, Rhys is dead, like, let's check to make sure, oh, yep, still dead, this is a corpse, like, then there was this part of me that was like, well, maybe he'll come back to life. But, I mean, she already did that with Feyre, so, like, I doubt she won't do that again. Like, nobody would do that twice. But then she did. Which is, like, weird because it's again with Sarah, like, it's these things that should be predictable. Like, oh, like, she did that last time, so, like, why not? Like, that would be her way. But, like, because she already did it, we're like, oh, she won't, because no author has used the same trope twice, and then she just, like, bam, did it. I don't know, I feel like that's kind of like a risky, bold move as an author, and I think that it did pay off because, like, if Rhys had stayed dead, I do not know what I would have done as a reader. Like, I can't. I thought this was really good because, like, it's so rare that a protagonist does die, and while, like, obviously I never want them to, it doesn't make sense when they're the ones who are constantly, like, putting themselves forward to take the brunt of attacks, and, like, they're always the ones fighting. It doesn't make sense for them to come out okay. Like, it's statistically and logically does not make sense. Like, after Percy Jackson, after Blood of Olympus, I'm like, okay, but, like, you've been fighting all these monsters for 10 books. Like, it doesn't make sense that you're okay, even though you're amazing and I love you and I do think that you're, like, the best. Like, And I thought that that was really good, that, like, it showed, like, yes, Reese is the best, and even he's not invincible, and, like, it, I just thought it was a really well-written thing. I'm very glad that it did not last, because I would have lost my mind, but I thought that it was done really well, and I loved Feyre losing her mind after he died, because, like, me too, Feyre. I love Feyre being a spy in the Spring Court. It was so well done. She was such a badass. Like, oh my god, she's so cunning, and like her plans and her strategies were so genius. The way that she made everything fall apart, and just the way that she did everything throughout her time in the Supreme Court, kind of getting people to hate each other and plotting, and also still like doing the right thing, like, oh, let me defend the sentries, but like also in doing so let me create allies. Like, it was just so brilliant. I just love Feyre. She's so smart and talented and such a badass. Like, I just want more of Feyre. I'm still like, this one, it's so hard because I feel like there wasn't like one concrete fairy tale that it was like a retelling of, you know, like it was very clear in the first and second, like, oh, this is what this is. And this one, like at the beginning, the thing with the apple happened. So like my best friend and I are like, oh, it's Snow White. That's what's happening. Like, that's what this is. And like with the magic, and like that made sense. And then when the human queen, Vasa, was mentioned, and it said how like during the day she was a bird and then she could only be herself at night or whatever, I was like, this is some kind of Swan Princess Shrek stuff. And then obviously with Elaine getting like lured away by the music in the middle of the night, like that was very Sleeping Beauty. So I'm just so, there was just so much going on fairy tale wise, so that was very interesting. And I don't know if there's like one of those that was supposed to be the overarching theme and I'm just like missing it, or if there's one more than all of those that I'm just missing. But either way, I thought it was really great. I loved getting to see like the different versions of all these little ones all interspersed throughout the story. There were like a solid 400 pages when I thought that Feyre was pregnant, and I was so, oh my god, I was so stressed. Because like, for a while, like, Feyre was just getting nauseous all the time randomly, which I think is definitely a very normal response to trauma and stuff like that. And I thought that afterwards, knowing that that's what it was, I thought that that was very well written, because I don't think that that's included often enough in like depictions of people who are going through things. So like, kudos to Sarah for that. But just the way it was, like, so like randomly all the time, it was just kind of like suddenly I felt like I was going to be sick, or I was gonna lose my breakfast. Like, it was just a very regular thing. And then Reese just kept like looking at her like all weird and sad, and like being like, all that matters is your future, I want to give you a future. And I don't know, just the way that it all happened, I was like, oh my god, she's pregnant. He's like gonna sacrifice himself because he wants there to be a world for his child to live in. And oh my, it was just, So that did not happen, which, I mean, I would love a face and kid, but like, for the time being, I was very glad that that was not something that I needed to worry about. Let's talk about Lucien for a moment. I loved his character development in this book. Definitely in ACOWAR, I think like most of us were like Team Lucien, like he's great, we want to be his buds, like he's cool. And then in ACOMAF, I was like, bruh, what are you doing? Like, I loved you so much. Why? So I was so glad that he kind of got to like become himself again and like be Feyre's friend and join like the night court and stuff. Like, that was so exciting to me. Since he didn't find out that he was Helios' son in this book, like, I'm hoping that that will be a thing in the continuation trilogy, and I'm really excited about that. I think that's so cool, because, like, even though family doesn't make you who you are, as we saw from Eris, like, I'm very excited to talk more about that. But, I think it'll be a relief for him to kind of not have to totally, wholly be a part of that, and to know that he could have another place with another court, that he is a person separate from them, and like there's a reason why that his family chose him to like bear the brunt of their hatred for all these years. So that was really exciting. I just really love him and Feyre being bros. Like, I love them making fun of people together, making fun of each other, and like I just think that there's such a great like friendship between them, and I hope that we get to see more of that in the continuation. Like, I love that. I loved that we got that back in this book. Like, that was probably one of my favorite aspects about getting to read ACOWAR, was like that we got to see more Feyre Lucien friendship stuff. Like, I thought that was so good. So we saw a little bit of Nessian in ACOMAF, but mainly I think like all of the Nessian stuff that I've seen has been like on Tumblr and fanfics and like just like stuff within the fandom. So I did not expect us to get this much of it in ACOWAR, but we did, and it was so great because it was like the couple that I probably was like the least excited for. Like I was just like, oh, like if that happens, that'll be cool. Like they would definitely like blow up the world, but also like I don't really care. Like that's like my last priority ship wise. But now that we have it, like it was so good. I think Sarah did a really great job in this book regarding Nessie and like kind of showing that they do need each other and like all the reasons why they'll be really great together. Um, like I know a lot of people beforehand were like, oh, like they'll be great because they're both like really like bombastic and like they just kind of like walk into a room and mess it up and they like intimidate everyone, so they'll be like this huge power couple, which I totally agree with. But also like I think it shows like Nesta doesn't really let people emotionally in, and she needs that. Like she needs someone to like care that for her, like she needs to feel that, and I think that Cassian kind of showed that he was going to be able to do that. And then like Cassian, he's so strong and tough, and like he tries to like hold back like pain and his own needs, like because he is like the general, like he wants to take care of all his troops and all his friends and all his people before himself. And like she, like when she noticed that he was injured and no one else had, and like he was hiding it, like it kind of like they just really fulfill like the things about each other that they're trying to take care of on their own but they can't. And I thought that it was so good, and I'm so excited that they are like a thing now. And then we have this little love triangle thing. So basically the fandom's assumption before this book was that like Moriel was gonna be a thing and Illusion was gonna be a thing. Like we all thought that those were both set in stone, like it was gonna, the way it was gonna happen was gonna be difficult, the road would be long because both of those were kind of hesitant and Elaine was not on board. But then ACOWAR happened. And honestly, I like this so much more. Actually, like it makes so much more sense. I love it. I love this plot twist. Yes, Sarah. I do. I totally see this now that I'm looking for it like in more. It makes so much more sense. And like I think that a lot of times in the fanfics and stuff, like it just kind of, it does seem very unrequited, and like because we do love Asriel, like we were like, oh, like maybe she just hasn't like said anything because she's nervous or because of Cassian or whatever, but like that she just like doesn't feel that way, it just makes so much more sense. I'm excited to see if she can like find her mate in the upcoming trilogy because I want more to have happiness and like be able to be with someone. Like I hope that she can like come out and not worry about it. And oh my god, if her father like interferes or something, I'm gonna like lose my mind. And then like I want to ship Lucian and Elaine because like I love Lucian, like I love him so much. Like I want him to be happy and like find love and finally be able to move on from like this like tragedy of his past and all. But I just don't see him and Elaine being what each other need. And like all this stuff with Elaine and Asriel was so cute and like definitely like was kind of leading us to be like, oh, let's ship this. And I do, it makes so much more sense. Like Az has this like darkness inside of him that like permeates his being, and I feel like he kind of thinks that that makes him a bad person and is so worried about that all the time, and he's so like quiet and shy, and like maybe in a different life like he would be good with someone like Moore. But I think right now like someone like Elaine, who is so quiet and like can be like the light to his dark, and they can kind of grow together, and she can remind him like, hey, like you're not bad, like I like love you, I love your shadows, like this is all good. And like I think sometimes it's easier to be who you are around people who are as quiet as you are because there's not as much like going on with them, and maybe that will help them both to open up because they are a little bit more timid. And I'm just so excited for this. I like this. I think he is what Elaine needs, like him giving her the knife, and Reese is like, I've never seen him let anyone touch that knife in my whole life. I was like, oh my god, ship. And like maybe Lucian can get with Vassa, the queen, because that seemed like a reasonable idea. Like he'll have to like save her from the curse thing, Swan Princess Shrek style, and then they can be together and have Thanksgiving with Elaine and Az. Like maybe how in Twilight, like, imprints can be whatever you need them to be, maybe the mating bond can be like that too. And, like, Elaine doesn't need Lucian to be her mate, she needs him to be, like, her BFF mate, and then they can be, like, bros, like how Lucian and Feyre are bros, and that, I would like that. Let's talk about Tamlin for a minute. This is the part that I'm the most unsure of the way I feel about. So, I am really glad that Tamlin got his redemption arc. I think that, like, it was all very true to the characters, and I liked that he could still be, like, a bad guy without being a bad guy. Like, he was very, very cruel and crass, and, like, I have never wanted to punch someone so much in my life as, like, during the High Lords meeting when he was being so awful. And he was obviously there, like, that was very frustrating. Like, you're not nice, but he still, like, did the right thing in the end and, like, helped Feyre to escape. And I love that he did get that opportunity to fight for the right side, to choose, and to, like, even though he had done some bad things, like, in the end, he got to, like, redeem himself in a way. And I thought that that was really good, and it was a really great way of, like, showing, like, you can come back from things, and you can improve who you are, and you can do bad things and still be a good person, and do good things and still be a bad person. Like, I thought that that was very well done. But I just feel like he never got called out on his bullshit. Like, in the High Lords meeting, everybody, like, let him talk, let him say whatever he wanted, and he just kept being like, oh, like, you stole my mate, and, like, you ran away, and, like, basically, like, you're evil and you're a slut, and, like, everybody kind of just let him get away with that. And, like, I totally get that, like, Feyre and Rhys were trying to take the high road here, and I think that they needed to in this situation or whatever, like, to some extent. But, like, Tamlin's all, oh, like, you turned my people against me by, like, and now my whole court is weak and couldn't resist invasion. Like, you don't get to just say this is all her fault. Like, yes, she did that. She did weaken your forces' allegiance to you. But also, that wasn't really her. All she had to do to weaken their allegiance was literally show what you had done. She just let the bruises from when you threw a table at her, when you literally would have killed a human version of her. And all she had to do was show that, and show them mercy and decency when you were like, oh, like, whip him. That's not evil. That's, yes, it was very, very clever, but that's your fault. And as a High Lord, I do think that Tamlin did deserve this redemption because he did what he did for, like, his people, like, wholly. He was trying to protect them, and I do think that he cares about them, even though he doesn't treat them well. I do think that he does want to protect them to some extent, but I think as a person, he never got what he deserved in terms of, like, getting called out and being like, hey, you're abusive and controlling and manipulative, and you locked your fiance in a house. Like, she ran away because you trapped her in a house, and you didn't care when she was having post-traumatic stress, and, like, you didn't care what was happening to her. Like, everybody was hiding from you all the things that were happening. She lost all of this weight, and you didn't notice. You literally are throwing tables at her, and, like, other times, too, if she hadn't used her shield. You are a terrible, terrible person, and, like, none of the other High Lords, like, said, like, oh, well, this is, and, like, Rhys and Feyre, like, no one said anything regarding that, and I think that that is something that needs to be said. And while I definitely, like, appreciate the redemption arc, I don't know that it makes up for, like, literally selling his people out to Hybern to get Feyre back in his control because he sees her as a possession. Like, that's just not gonna be okay with me. And then we have Jurian. Like, woo! Did not see that one coming. This was so, I still don't know how I feel about Jurian, because everything that we've heard from word of mouth has just been really bad. Like, most everything. But all of our interactions with him where he was, like, honest and, like, his own and not, like, fronting for Hybern, he seemed like a good person, and, like, can we trust who we see him as versus who we've been told he is? Like, what do we do there? I loved, like, with him and, like, with a lot of other people who had, like, fought in the war, when Feyre was, like, pretending to be in the Spring Court still, and was like, oh, like, Rhys is awful and evil, and, like, he hurt me, and they're like, bitch, please, like, we know Rhys, like, you can, all this stuff can happen, whatever, but, like, a character does not change that much, like, that is not who Rhys is. We know you're lying. Like, it's cool. We don't like Tamlin either, so, like, we'll let you keep it up. But, I mean, we know. And I was like, yes, like, people who know Rhys believe that he's good. Like, that made me so happy because I hate this bad image that everybody has, and it was just like, there are people who know the truth. But yeah, like, I don't know, with Jurian, how to feel. He seemed very sincere in, like, his desire to apologize, and, like, he did finally get that opportunity, so I'm glad that happened, but I just don't know. And then at the beginning, with Elaine, where she was just, like, mumbling, but she's mumbling these prophecies very, like, Ella the Harpy style, kind of. Like, I don't know, it was just really interesting, and Az was the one to realize that she was saying things of meaning, like, she's literally telling you what's about to happen, and you're all just like, oh no, don't worry, Elaine. When Draken and Miriam did show up, though, and we were like, oh my god, like, this is it. Literally, like, everyone that I love is about to die, and then you realize that their fleets are, like, there for you. It was just, like, talk about Deus Ex Machina. That was something, alright. Just bam, and then they showed up and, like, saved them, and they're like, oh, BT dubs, Rhys, sorry, we were in the same place that you thought we were this whole time. Like, we just had this, I guess our cloaking spell was a little too good. Oops, like, oops, we all just almost died. Oops, what? And then we have more, like, human ships sailing, and we're like, oh my god, like, Hybern got the queens, but no, it's their father. Whenever someone is mentioned, and then not for, like, a significant portion, like, whenever they have disappeared for, like, more than half of a book, they are either dead, or they're up to something. In this case, their father was up to something, and he figured out what happened, and, like, literally just came to save them. Like, what? That was so great. I'm still a little curious as to how their father did, like, find out everything about the Fae, and that they were part of the Fae, and that he needed to get, like, all these troops and stuff, and while I'm very glad that it did happen, I would like to know a little bit more backstory on that. I don't really know how to feel about their father's death, because, well, he did just save them, and it was really great, and the way that he did it was awesome, and it kind of redeemed him a little bit. He still is the man that let them starve for years. Like, that's just not okay with me. So, I just don't know how to feel. Like, yes, he's their father, and he did love them in the end, so I'm sad that he died, but also, I just don't care as much as I could, because you did a lot of terrible things. Like, you did not care when your children were starving. That's not, like, that is, to me, the worst thing that you can do. So, all of the action scenes in this book were so well done and so vivid, and I don't picture in my head when I read, but still, like, the clarity with which the scenes were described, and they were just so in-depth. It was amazing to read. I just thought it was so well done. Like, everyone was kept up with, and I loved it. Like, I think Sarah surpassed everything that we've seen her do with the action scenes in this book. So then we have all these action scenes, and at the end, no one actually ends up being dead, because, like, it turns out Amren's just been turned into, like, a mortal, not really immortal, like an immortal, but compared to her god self, mortal. And then Rhys comes back to life because of the High Lords or whatever, and I'm like, well, everyone's alive. So I should be very, very happy, and, like, this should be, like, too happy, like, Sarah, like, no one died. But I just had so much emotional trauma to get there that I'm like, okay, good, I deserve this. Because there were, like, 3 different places where we thought Cassian was gonna die. And then we think Cassian and Nesta are gonna die together, like, it is like, they are going to die. That was a bad one. And it made it seem like Az was gonna die. It was so, like, dark, and he was just like, yeah, like, this is, and all the little, like, group gatherings where they were like, if this is it, and, like, we all knew that that would be the last time that we stood together, and, like, you're like, no, and, like, just, obviously, even though they didn't die, you kept feeling like they had, because it kept being, they came so close that you thought they were dead for a second, until she said that they moved, or they breathed, or whatever, and then we thought that Rhys was dead, which I'm pretty sure took at least 15 years off of my life. I can't, and then during this one battle scene, like, it said something about more, and then she disappeared for, like, 5 pages, and I was like, oh my god, she's about to die, like, we haven't seen her, and Faye was gonna be like, I realized that I hadn't seen more in a while when I heard a scream, and bam, she was dead. Like, no one died, but I really thought that they did so much that it feels like all of them died. it was also really cool seeing them, like, trying to make all the alliances with immortals, like, going to see everybody, and, like, the bone carver and the weaver. Oh, I thought that was so great. Them fighting with them and, like, the things that they had to go through to get them to join their forces. I thought it was so fun to read. It was so exciting to get to see those other sides of these creatures that, like, had kind of been introduced as monsters, but there's so much more, and it was really, really amazing to see. And then we have the Ouroboros mirror that Feyre has to look into to get the bone carver's help, and it turns out this whole time, like, the reason people go crazy is because they see themselves and they just can't accept it. And, like, I thought that was so important for Feyre to, like, look in the mirror and see and be like, wow, like, yeah, that's me. Like, I am problematic and I hate myself, but I also love myself. And I thought that was so good for, like, self-growth, and obviously, like, a huge allegory and stuff, but, like, just such an important lesson that I thought Feyre needed to learn, and also for the audience. I think that's something that everyone can use in their own life. So it was really great. And for all of that, just because the bone carver was like, oh yeah, like, I don't actually need it, but I'm not going to help someone unless they're, like, literally the best and the purest of heart and the strongest and, like, the best person possible. So you passed my test, now I'll help you. And then they died, which was awful, obviously. And then the cereal died, which was one of the more upsetting parts of the book. Honestly, I did not realize that I was so attached to the cereal, but I think because it just facilitated so much of Feyre's life in Prythian, it was just so heartbreaking to watch. When she was, like, going to seek out the cereal, this was when I thought that she was pregnant, and I was like, oh my god. So the cereal is, like, always dropping these secrets, so she's gonna be like, yo, like, answer my question. And it's gonna be like, what do you mean? Like, shouldn't you be preparing for the baby? And it was which obviously did not happen. Oh my god, I don't know how I got this far into the video without talking about Yanthe, because I hate that bitch. She does all this stuff. When Feyre's in the Spring Court, Yanthe is, like, ruining everything, unsurprisingly, and I'm just so done with her. And then she shows up with a cereal, which was so great. Like, yes, Feyre, get the Weaver to kill her for you. That was genius. But, like, then she shows up there, and then she's gone, finally. But up until that point, when Feyre was, like, debating killing her in her sleep, there was such a large part of me rooting for that to happen. And then when Feyre and Az go to rescue Elaine, it was such a great scene to watch. It was really interesting to get to see her, like, shapeshift again, and being someone that she hates so much, and Jury, and just figuring it out like that was so brilliant. They did get Elaine, which I thought was really cool for, like, Az being Philip, if we are gonna say that Elaine is Sleeping Beauty. But it was just such a great scene. So we got to see, like, the good side of Jurian and a good side of Tamlin, which was so wonderful. It was really cool to see both of those, and just the whole thing that happened, the whole dynamic. I kind of thought it was going to be, like, a lot darker and that a lot more bad stuff was going to go down, but it ended up being okay. I know a lot of this is really disjointed, but I read this 4 days ago now, 5 days ago, and I'm just still recovering. We definitely do, though, still have a lot of unanswered questions that do leave a lot of room for the series to come, and of course, like, I'm sure there's going to be a whole huge underlying battle thing that I'm not even going to see coming from a mile away, but for right now, we still need to learn more about Vasa. Like, obviously, her curse needs to be broken so that she can be herself again, so we have to figure out, like, how to stop this Firebird stuff from happening. That's gonna be something, so I'm really excited to see more about that. We still have to see Elaine and Az get together, if that is going to be a thing, what Elaine and Lucien are going to work out with their mating bond, if anything's going to happen with him and Vasa, like, how they're both going to heal from this battle, how everyone's going to heal from this battle, mostly, but also these people who have had these huge emotional turnarounds and huge life events happen within this, so, like, not only are they recovering from this huge war, but also, oh, my life just changed dramatically, and there are all these new people, and how can I kind of reconcile all of this with what I know? And then we have this guy who's in the north on some lake, who's the one who captured Vasa and cursed her with this thing. Anyways, and he keeps being mentioned, but we never get to know explicitly, like, what's going down with that. But because he's, like, described in the north in the lake, do we think that this is the third bone carver's sibling? Like, he talked about the Weaver being his sister, and then he said he had the brother who lived in the lake and blah, blah, blah. Like, do we think that this is the third sibling? Like, is that a possibility? Is that who we're gonna get to meet in the next book? And also, did Alice and her nephews make it out okay? Because they fought in summer. I want to know if they're okay. Like, she went there to keep them safe. Like, they better be A, and B, I want to see more of them and, like, make sure that we get to see, like, Feyre kind of talking with them and all of that. I'd really like to see more interactions with the other High Lords. I mean, obviously, we've dealt with, like, Autumn and Spring a lot, but, like, I really enjoyed getting to see Rhys and Feyre interact with the ones of Winter and Day and Dawn and all that, and I'd like to get to see a lot more of that. And also, I'd like to get to see a lot more of Tarquin and kind of what happens now that he has rescinded the blood feud, and I want to know what's happening in his life. Like, I want to see what goes there. And definitely still something that we need to figure out is what Eris is going to play as his role when he does become High Lord, because we've heard all these terrible, terrible things, again, like with Jurian. We know from, like, the past, like, all these things that people have said about him, but all of our actual interactions with him have been pretty positive, and he's kind of a jerk to Mor, obviously, like, and that's not at all okay, but it's not evil like his family, which makes me wonder, were they the ones, like, posing as him? Like, was he never the one behind all of this? Did he truly try all of these things to help the good side? And I'd like to get to see more of that and see if that is who he truly is. And part of me wants to just talk about this book for another hour, but we can't do that. So I'm going to end this here and say that I really, really did love this book. I'm so excited that's finally out. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about it. So let me know what you thought when you were reading this. And I don't know, I'd love to hear what everyone else's take is, what they think is going to come in the next series. Have a good one, y'all.